over Letnin.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're all well, fed and watered and ready for round 2. Round 10, actually, really. But, thank you for joining us. If anybody wants to shout out who they are and where they're representing whilst we're waiting for everybody to pop in, it's always nice to hear.
Hello Elaine, I'm from Woodhatch WI, near Reigate in Surrey.
Hi Elizabeth, thank you for joining us.
Can I just ask how we register for seeing the new venue tomorrow morning? I couldn't see anywhere online.
Oh, it's not. It will just be a video. I will send it out via email, and it's only sort of 2 or 3 minutes, so I'll send it out by email, and it'll be on social media as well, so you'll be able to watch it that way.
Thank you very much. And you put the Portsmouth one back on now, have you?
Say that again?
You've put the Portsmouth, we can see the all the Portsmouth one is on the...
Yes, yeah, that's been uploaded.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that's all on the YouTube channel, which you can access via the website. There's buttons across the website which take you through to the channel.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Still got a few more people coming in. I don't actually know where that last hour or so went. It seemed to be time to log on again. Still got more people coming in. Right. Okay, I might get started. Thank you very much. Welcome to our 10th and final virtual familiarisation trip with Excursions 2021. Certainly not last or least. We have the team from Reading, UK here with us today, which is very exciting. I think we will call it the surprising and unexpected are the words we were saying. With all of the news at the moment, they're talking about the staycations and everywhere's becoming very booked up very quickly. Everybody's looking for places that are a bit more unique and diverse, or you know, that aren't the most obvious of places. So I think this is a fantastic one to end on. If I could just ask you all to mute yourselves on the bottom, but I think we've got a well-versed group here today, and you've all done it already, so thank you very, very much. And there's a chat box at the bottom as usual. If you do have questions for any of the team, so when you click on that button, for those that are new, it brings up a column on the right hand side and you can see any chats. Karen will just run through how we facilitate that in just one moment. And this session is being recorded, as you well know. We're now up to 652 views of all of these sessions, so we are absolutely thrilled. I think it shows there's some longevity to these recordings for you, and as and when you want to revisit them, you can. So in terms of the efforts involved from everyone, we're really pleased with that. So if you don't feel comfortable talking, if you need to, you can turn your stop video button off as well. So we have that. So Tourism South East runs Excursions runs Excursions, and we, as well as we're doing Excursions, we have another hat which is promoting just the southeast of England as such. And as well as doing all of the promotions, we also work behind the scenes to help businesses with their training and their visitor information, and we managed a few of the small number of TICs that are around these days. So we've got lots of strings to our bows and lots of balls in the air, but Excursions has very much been about the group travel side of things and supporting this industry whilst it's been in turmoil, really. So this is about inspiring and connecting you, keeping you up to date with everything that's going on until such time as you can travel again, and we are all desperate to get going. Having spent this week going around the country, I think it almost makes it harder because you've seen everywhere that you want to go and you want to do it now. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Karen just to run through the Q&A, and then we will hand over to Alex from Reading UK, who will introduce all of his partners in due course. So enjoy the last session, everybody.
Thanks, Elaine. And for any of you that were on this morning, which is probably most of you, you saw Fran, Elaine and myself. And probably for the last 25 years, although I've been involved for 30, we've been the organisers. And between the three of us, we've all taken it in turns to manage excursions. So it was great to see us all on there. The question and answer session will take place at the end. The chat box is in the bottom panel. You can put your question in there and I will ask it to the appropriate person at the end. Or if you want to ask it yourself, just say that you want to ask and I'll come to you and ask you to unmute. So I'll hand over now to Alex and the team in Reading for a surprising and unexpected destination.
Thank you, Carol. Lovely to see you all. Thanks for joining us and surviving through to the 10th session. Hopefully we are the 10th and best session of the week, which will keep you entertained. I work for Reading UK. We're the destination lead organisation for Reading. And in a minute, I'll do a sort of a brief whistle-stop introduction to Reading in 2021. But first, I'd just like to ask my co-presenters just to introduce themselves, starting with Matthew. We seem to have lost Matthew's sound.
Oh, we can't hear Matthew.
Matthew, we seem to have lost your sound. Shall I introduce you and hopefully it'll come back? So Matthew is the Reading Museum manager, but also has a remit looking after Reading Abbey and the Reading Abbey Quarter. And hopefully, if we can get him back in again with sound, he will be talking to us in a short while about Reading Abbey and Reading Abbey Quarter. But in the meantime, if I could ask Tim to say hello.
Hi, I'm Tim Deaton and I run Thames River Cruise, which is a passenger boat company that operates out of, well, it's sort of Caversham, which is on the edge of Reading. And we go up and down the river, and we also go up the Kennet as well to Reading Abbey. So we go in both directions and we offer, hopefully, a lot of things that you'll be able to do later in this year. Unfortunately, last year was very quiet, but we're still here and ready to go.
Thanks, Tim. And also, if I could introduce Alison Hilton.
Hi, I'm Alison. I'm the marketing manager at the Museum of English Rural Life in Reading.
Smashing. Okay, so hopefully I'm going to do a kick-off, which will hopefully give Matthew time to get back in and have his sound working. So if I could just share my screen with you, I will just run you through a little bit of Reading 2021. So just before I start, obviously I just want to reiterate the very obvious fact that we're not encouraging visits at this juncture for obvious reasons, but you know, when we're able to do so, our attractions, our hotels, our riverboat operators, shops, restaurants, they're all geared up to welcome you to Reading. And for some reason, my stopped moving forward. That's a bit of a shame.
Maybe take it off of preview and just run it with the pages on the left-hand side. I think.
Oh, here we go. Okay, I think we're working again. Let's go with that. There's a lovely picture of Tim with his "We're good to go" certificate. Okay, we are running. Okay, so those of those of you who don't really know Reading, we are probably one of the best connected places in the UK. Really easy to get to from anywhere. We're 22 minutes from London by train now, 40 minutes from Heathrow, an hour from central London along the M4. We're part of the Great West Way on the eastern side of the London to Bristol route. But we're also on the River Thames, the Kennet and Avon Canal, the Thames Path National Trail, the new King Alfred Way cycle route, and we are the start of the St James Way, the English leg of the international pilgrimage route, which ends up in Santiago in northern Spain. For coach groups, we're well organised. We've got a drop-off point in the centre of town by Reading Museum within the Reading Abbey Quarter, and parking by arrangement with Reading buses in their depot on the edge of town. And both Merle and Thames River Cruise have their own drop-offs as well for visits to them. Where I want to start really today, I think, this is going back to what Elaine was saying really about unexpected and surprising, is about Reading's heritage story. It's not what most visitors expect to find when they come to Reading for the first time, but Reading is rich in history, and our royal heritage is in the form of the burial place of King Henry I of England in Reading Abbey ruins, which is right in the heart of Reading. It's part of the Abbey Quarter, which is a 13-hectare site, and the ruins, the Abbey itself, dates back to 1121. So those of you who are great at mental arithmetic will already know that this year, therefore, is the 900th anniversary of what would have been one of the most important medieval buildings in Europe. And Matthew will talk hopefully a bit more about that in a while. Within the Abbey Quarter as well, we have the gateway, one of the last gateway standing, which then became a school in the late 18th century, and Jane Austen was a pupil at that school, and you can visit the gateway. And 100 years after that, Oscar Wilde was one of the, well, probably the most famous inmate at Reading Jail in cell 3.3. He wrote De Profundis while he was imprisoned there, and afterwards the Ballad of Reading Jail. It's no longer a prison. It's closed at the moment, and we are awaiting a decision from government about its future. But I think we're all locally really hopeful that culture and heritage will form a part of its future. But for now, Oscar Wilde fans can walk the perimeter, including along Oscar Wilde Walk. We've also got some great architecture in Reading, particularly from the Georgian and Victorian periods. So you can see buildings by Sir John Soane, George Gilbert Scott, Puget, Alfred Waterhouse. All of those can be found in Reading, and a lot of our heritage story is through our museums. So starting at the top left there, we've got Reading Museum, which tells the story of the town and the abbey and its foundation, as well as having the only full-size replica of the Bayeux tapestry, which was stitched by Victorian women, and is absolutely well worth a visit just to see that, really. We also have the Merle, which Alison is going to talk to us about in a while, the National Museum of Food, Farming and the Countryside, which is 70 years old this year, and two museums at the University of Reading's, on the University of Reading's White Knights campus in Reading, which are the Ewer Museum of Greek Archaeology and the Cole Museum of Zoology, which is reopening this summer in a new home. So really looking forward to that. Heritage and leisure all come together here. This is the Thames Lido. It was an Edwardian ladies' bathing pool, which had lain derelict for 40 years until it was restored, beautifully restored, and it's won conservation prizes for the restoration. Reopened in 2018 as a spa, a lido, a restaurant and a bar, and a great stop right alongside the Thames, a great stop for lunch. and it really is a destination in its own right these days. Other attractions in and around Reading: we are one of the UK capitals for escape rooms, and we've got 4 escape rooms in the town centre to choose from, indoor and outdoor games. There are 3 National Trust properties in the countryside surrounding Reading, including Basildon Park, pictured bottom right, but Grays Court and the Vine are both within easy striking distance as well. And next to Basildon Park, we have Beale Park Wildlife Park, right again on the River Thames. And they've got plans for a new aviary to open this year. Now, for people who don't know Reading, you might be surprised to know that Reading has the longest River Thames frontage of any local authority. We've got great stretches of the Thames, and it goes right through the heart of the town. Tim's going to talk a little bit more about Thames River Cruise, pictured here, who operate circular sightseeing cruises and theme evenings from their fleet in the middle of Reading. So I won't dwell on that, but there's lots of other waterways activities that you can do. You can hire paddle boards, you can row. We've got the brand new open water swimming centre, which is on a lake right next to the GB rowing centre in Reading, and they are this year opening a beach bar, a family beach and an aqua park as part of the open water swimming centre. So lots and lots to do on and around the Thames. But the waterfront isn't just confined to the Thames. The Kennet flows right through the middle of the town. Here it's pictured through the middle of the Oracle Centre, the beach bar on one side and the event space on the other side, but lots and lots of outdoor dining options there. 19 million people visit the Oracle Shopping Centre every year. It is one of the most popular centres in the whole of the Thames Valley, with brands from A to Z, Apple to Zara. Because everything really in Reading is walkable. So once you've dropped off, once you come from the station or dropped off from your coach, everything else pretty much is easily walkable. So it's really easy to do sort of an Abbey Quarter visit and the museum and a bit of shopping and a bit of dining, all within a really compact area. So really, we were just looking at the Kennet there, but just the other side of the Oracle Centre is the High Street, where John Lewis is the anchor store. So great for a bit of shopping while you're here. We've also got a strong independent retail offer with many of the smaller shops in the Harris Arcade, but our shopping centres, our modern shopping centres, are also in the heart of the town. So everything is all in one place. Now, I think for anyone exploring the Great West Way or venturing west of London, I think Reading has the largest hotel capacity really until you get to somewhere like Bath, really. So we're a great place to base yourselves, either in the town centre or hotels near the M4 for easy movement along the motorway. We've got the Novotel in the town centre with a pool here, and the Roseate, which has both contemporary and traditional rooms, the traditional room here. They've got a new spa and restaurant that has literally just opened at the tail end of last year. But you'll also find many other brands, you know, from the sort of Malmaisons to Crown Plazas, to Market House, Travel Lodge, Penta, Mercure. We've got some great serviced accommodation as well from the likes of House of Fraser, and Premier Suites, again, all in the town. So really good accommodation offer. Modern day Reading really is a very multicultural and diverse place. And I think that's reflected in our food offering. We have a twice weekly World Street Food Market in Marketplace, and in the tail end of last year, when we were allowed to, we held the finals of the UK Street Food Festival in Reading. But you can choose anything from sort of afternoon tea on a barge to Spanish, North African influences next to the Lido, to big brands alongside, you know, like Franco Manca and the Real Greek alongside the Kennet. So food, no problems. Apologies for the gory picture. It's the only one I have from Killing Eve. But film and TV fans, lots of film locations to go to find around Reading. Anything from the Eagle has landed in Maple Durham to Bugsy Malone in the town centre. Reading Jail doubled as a Russian prison for Killing Eve, and there are lots more. Now, like many places, but we think probably more than anywhere in the region, Reading has a really thriving events programme, from the Reading Festival in August, but lots of smaller festivals, things like Reading's own Fringe Festival, Heritage Open Days, regattas on the Thames, multi-venue town centre music festivals. So lots, particularly from sort of spring through to autumn, lots and lots of things happening, obviously in a normal year, and we wait to see quite how that pans out this year with COVID. But hopefully some of our great festivals will happen in one format or another. In terms of itineraries, we've got some travel trade resources on our Living Reading website with ideas. If you were thinking about a day trip, then a guided tour of the Abbey ruins and a visit to Reading Museum or Merle in the morning, followed by lunch and then a river trip would be a great day. If you've got more than a day, then add in Basildon Park or Beale Park Wildlife Park or a walk along the Thames, or double up and do a sort of a 2-destination visit, because we're really close to Henley and Stoner Park and Marlow, or Silchester Roman ruins just south of Reading. So lots of other things that you could sort of match up with. So what I'd like to do before hopefully introducing Matthew is just to give you a little bit of context about Reading Abbey by showing you the short film that we made to celebrate really the 900th anniversary. So hopefully we'll be back with Matthew after this.
Welcome to Reading Abbey ruins. This would have been one of the most important places in medieval England. Built by a king and home to royalty and parliament, and the burial site of King Henry I of England, no less. 900 years of history, from 1121 to the present day. When you visit during the Abbey's 900th anniversary year of 2021, your visit should start here, in Reading Museum, in the heart of Reading's Abbey Quarter. So this is what it must have been like. And as you can see, the Abbey towers over the wharf. Parliament. Find out how Henry I founded the Abbey in 1121 and what life was like in the Abbey up to its closure in 1539. Henry was the youngest son of William the Conqueror, whose most famous story is told in the Bayeux Tapestry. And you can see the only life-size replica of the Bayeux Tapestry here. Now, where's the bit with the eye? The Abbey was consecrated by Archbishop Thomas Becket in the presence of King Henry II in 1164.
We dedicate today in your holy name, be a house of grace and salvation.
For 400 years, this was one of the largest monastic sites in Europe. The Abbey, in its heyday, was as tall as our blade and was one of the highest structures in 12th century Europe. The same scale as Winchester Cathedral and only 15 metres shorter than the present St Paul's Cathedral. Reading Abbey Quarter spans 13 hectares! Here In 1643, in the English Civil War, royalist forces were besieged by Cromwell's parliamentarians.
We shall hold Reading for the king, or else starve to death first.
One of the original Reading Abbey gateways survived, and later became a school in 1785. Reading Ladies' Boarding School was home to the 10-year-old future author, Jane Austen. But Reading Abbey Quarter has lots more history. Cell 3.3, a Victorian Reading jail, was occupied by its most famous inmate, Oscar Wilde. The Ballad of Reading Jail came after his release, but De Profundis was written while he was still imprisoned here. A major conservation project reopened Reading Abbey ruins in 2018. We're ready to welcome you in our anniversary year. Visit Reading Abbey ruins in 2021 and walk through 900 years of history.
Okay, so hopefully that's given you a little introduction. I don't know if Matthew's joined us. If he hasn't, oh, brilliant, smashing! Because otherwise, I was going to have to do my best impersonation. But that's great news.
Can you hear me?
Over to you, Matthew. Yeah, that's great.
Great. Okay, I'm on the phone as well. I've got the phone on standby as well, so I'm in case it doesn't work. Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to be here. Now, as you've just seen and heard from Alex, Reading is an ancient place with over 1,000 years of history. But today we're focusing on the nationally important heritage of Reading Abbey, which is, as you've just seen, is 900 years old this June. So on our first slide, you can see here, this is the Abbey Quarter that Alex was just describing, we saw in the video. So the remains of Reading Abbey are set in this Abbey Quarter, which is this large area in the heart of Reading, shown on the map. It's the former precinct of Reading Abbey that was founded by King Henry I in 1121, and it was one of the largest medieval royal monasteries in Northern Europe. So this isn't just something of national importance, it's of European importance. You can just see here, it's the 13 hectares, that's over 30 acres of modern central Reading that it covers, the Abbey Quarter, and it stretches between two of our striking modern landmarks, the 21st century railway station that many of you may be familiar with, but also the iconic former jail with its Oscar Wilde connections that you can see on the slide here. So on our next slide, you can also see this is what the Abbey looked like, and you can really see the scale of it. So that area you've just seen on that map was this vast Benedictine medieval monastery. And at the time of its closure in 1539, this was the 4th largest church in England. So this was bigger than Westminster Abbey, as you've just heard. But I think this reconstruction, this digital reconstruction we did for our project really gives you an idea of the scale of this, bigger than most cathedrals in England. So if we look at the ruins we can see today on the next slide, you get an impression that this is really only, these ruins are very impressive, but are actually only a small part of the abbey that we would have seen. In fact, these are only a third of the height originally, but are still very impressive and a very unusual sight, that mix of old and new that you get in Reading city centre. If we look at the next slide after this, again, here's the Abbey Gateway. So both the Abbey ruins and the Abbey Gateway are Grade 1 listed buildings. They're also scheduled ancient monuments, which means they've got the highest protection under UK law. And that's the same as Stonehenge or the House of Parliament. So this really is national heritage. Here you can see the dormitory with and the prison next to it. So you can see how all these heritage sites are cheek by jowl across the ages. So it truly is 1,000 years of history. You heard how they reopened after a £3 million restoration campaign in 2018. Some of that work's continued and we're still looking after the site today. And in fact, we've won 4 national awards for that work, including the interpretation that we've got across the site, which really have brought that to life for the public. Now, the Royal Abbey was, as we've heard, founded by Henry I. Now, Henry I is not one of the best known kings, but actually he's one of the most interesting. He's actually the one who's fathered the most illegitimate children, which makes him a bit of a bad boy. But also, he was the youngest son of William the Conqueror, and I'm sure you've all heard of William the Conqueror. And Henry spared no expense building Reading Abbey. The stone was brought from Normandy and also from Oxfordshire. It's the same stone as you get at Blenheim Abbey, Blenheim Palace, and the Oxford colleges. And it was the largest and wealthiest, one of the largest, wealthiest monasteries in Europe, and the scene of many royal weddings. Court met here, and even Parliament met here during the medieval period. It was dissolved by Henry VIII in 1539, along with many of the monasteries. And in fact, the last abbot, Hugh Farrington, was executed in front of the abbey church because he refused to give up the abbey to the king. Only the abbots of Glastonbury and Bury St Edmunds met that fate. So again, sort of quite a violent end to the abbey. Now, if you see our next slide here, you can't fail to recognise that the great Queen Elizabeth I. And in fact, after the dissolution, the abbot's house, the cloisters buildings, and the inner gate that you've seen in the last slide survived because they became a royal palace. And in fact, they were one of Elizabeth's favourite royal palaces. And this is the beautiful portrait that we have at Reading Museum that's always been in the town since Elizabeth lived here, basically, much of the time in Reading. The abbey fared pretty badly, though, in the 1640s during the English Civil War, when fortifications were actually cut across the abbey, destroying much of the palace due to the fact that Reading was between London and Oxford, where Parliament and the Royalists were both headquartered. So later, we really get the revival in Reading is in the Victorian period. Reading boomed, and the beautiful Forbury Gardens, which you can see here, were laid out across much of the abbey grounds. And in fact, the centrepiece is what you can see here, the Maywand Lion, which has become really the symbol of modern Reading. It was unveiled in 1886, commemorating the Battle of Maywand in Afghanistan, which was actually a major defeat for the Royal Berkshire Regiment at the time. But you wouldn't guess it from this very impressive piece of Victorian sculpture right in the heart of Reading. And of course, Oscar Wilde was imprisoned here, as we've heard, from 1895 to 1897, and wrote the works that Alex described earlier. But in fact, the reason he was imprisoned here is because he was actually a friend of the Palmer family, because next to the prison was the largest biscuit factory in the world, Huntley and Palmer's, that many of you may remember. And he was a friend of the Palmer family and used to come to Reading for summer garden parties at some of the Palmer houses. So there's actually a very deep link to Oscar Wilde beyond the prison and Reading. So if we go to the next slide, Abbey 900 is what we're kind of talking about today. So on the 18th of June, we celebrate that 900th anniversary. And Henry died in Normandy, but he was brought back here to Reading in 1136 and buried in front of the high altar. In fact, you can see here, there's a plaque that's you can still see in the ruins. We restored this plaque 2 years ago, and it sort of marks the spot. And we've got this king, hidden king, a bit like Richard III in Leicester. But we know that Henry's there. He was buried here. He's just under modern Reading. And here actually is a reconstruction painting from 1916 showing that scene of royal pageantry in front of the high altar in Reading when Henry I was buried here. And of course, he's the only English king that's buried in a town. Everywhere else, the kings are normally buried in cities. So he's still here within the ruins of Reading Abbey. So we're hoping, COVID permitting, obviously, but we've got plans for great events based on what we did in 2018 when 20,000 people attended our reopening of the ruins. And also we did a great thing at Christmas where we had a COVID-safe twilight trail through the ruins. So we're going to, you can see the image of that in the bottom there of the Forbury lit up beautifully in December this year. And again, we're hoping to really learn from that experience and whatever happens in summer, be able to put on a COVID-safe celebration of what's been going on both in the day and the evening of that June weekend. But actually people can visit throughout the year. In 2021, we are good to go at the museum. Once the national lockdown's gone, we're back in place. People can book for visits and make a visit as part of the Great West Way tour, a day trip to Reading or a short break. That can all be part of it. So what's it like to visit the museum in the Abbey Quarter? Well, actually, Reading Museum is based here in our stunning Victorian Town Hall building, which is one of the great landmarks of Reading. Reading's very proud of its beautiful Victorian Town Hall. Again, the architect was actually Alfred Waterhouse, who designed the Natural History Museum and Manchester Town Hall. And it's only a short 2-minute walk from the station, right in the centre of Reading. It's easy to book, and we recommend at least 2 hours, half a day to visit the museum and to explore the Abbey. And then with plenty of time for refreshments and shopping, because that's all there. The museum itself, Alex has described our famous version of the Bear Tapestry. Here it is. But actually, you can spend several hours in the museum. We've got 10 galleries ranging from archaeology to those famous biscuit tins from Huntley and Palmer's, natural history and art exhibitions in our Sir John Medeski Art Gallery. But again, for many people, the 70-metre long tapestry is the highlight of a visit. Saves going to France as well. It's here in Britain. It's Britain's version. And of course, like every museum, we've got the shop and we've got many cafes, independent and the chains nearby. Now, the Abbey Quarter itself, on our website, the Abbey Quarter website, you can see here, it's got a great interactive map, so you can plan your day and work out where you want to go, what you want to see. And across the quarter, we've got an extensive network of interpretation panels, and people can pick up a map for themselves at the museum or use that website, which is mobile enabled. Or we've got for self-guided tours and explore that 900 years of history on their mobile device, taking the museum, town hall, square, the Forbury Gardens, the Abbey Gateway and the Abbey Ruins. And of course, we do run guided tours, which we're hoping to get back up and running, ready for June and summer. And again, these are led by our knowledgeable volunteer guides. They take about 90 minutes to start at the museum. They explore the Hospitium, where the medieval pilgrims stayed. They look at Reading's involvement in the English Civil War. And of course, they end at the beautifully restored Abbey Ruins, which you can see here is the chapter house. In that picture, you can see the plaque for Summaries Are Coming In, which is the earliest piece of music written in English, which was written at Reading Abbey and is now treasure of the British Library. Again, those you can book those for 10 or more in advance through the museum website, but of course you don't need to book if you're doing self-guided tours around the site. And as Alex said, there's a handy coach drop-off point right by the museum for those arriving by coach. So we hope to have that all in place and welcome everybody during the rest of the year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthew. That's great. Lovely that you could join us in the end. That's terrific. So we're going to move on from there to Thames River Cruise and to Tim Deaton, who's going to talk us through what they have to offer.
Good afternoon. Just a little bit of history about Thames River Cruise. We started in 1974, and we had one little boat which we used to run up to Maple Durham from Caversham Bridge, as you can see here. And slowly we got bigger and bigger, got more boats, and we had to have boats that had loos on board because we wanted to do trips over half an hour. And here you can see one of our boats coming through the centre of Reading to be dropped into the Thames at Caversham Bridge. All around Reading, the most amazing views of the river. And we're really actually in Wind in the Willows countryside. And it's really the site of many sort of television series, films, Midsummer Murders have been here, and Toad to Toad Hall, etc. You can see a selection of our boats, Caversham Princess, which takes 120. We've got the Princess Marina here, which takes up to about 50 and can deal with very much more bespoke parties. Caversham Lady here, which is a sort of medium-sized boat. All of the boats have got an open foredeck, so you can get these glorious views of the Thames. This is the Maple Durham Reach, and their Maple Durham Mill, which is the oldest working water mill on the River Thames and was mentioned in the Domesday Book as a well-established mill at the time. Whitchurch Bridge at Pangbourne, which is one of the 3 toll bridges left on the River Thames. So you have to get your money out for that one. Here's one of our boats going through Maple Durham Lock. The longer trips tend to go through locks, but our shorter trips don't, so there's not too much time wasted. There's always a wonderful view. This is an evening view, obviously, but we do early evening trips throughout the year, and you can really get some wonderful vistas. This is actually right in the middle of Reading. Reading Abbey is one of the venues that we can go to. You have to go down the Thames into the River Kennet and up to Reading Abbey itself. And that's the way, of course, that the kings and the queens of the times would have actually travelled, because river was the main way. You also got the centre of Reading, which is a really wonderful area. Why not have something to eat while you're on the boat? One of the nice things is that you can have a cream tea, or you can have lunch on board, and you're almost killing 2 birds with 1 stone, because you can have the river trip and eat. You can see that the boats are quite spacious, and they offer everything. You've got viewing platforms, and of course they're covered against the weather if the weather happens to be inclement. Here we are again into the centre of Reading. What is nice is that you're in the middle of Reading, and within minutes you're actually out to open countryside. So it doesn't take very long to move away. All our boats are well fitted out, and we have bars, where you can have teas, coffees, and the odd beer, or even a glass of wine if you wish. So it really, you can see again the interior. This is the smaller vessel, which we can do all sorts of bespoke things according to what you wish. But our boats are also modern and spacious and with large windows, so a very good viewing platform. And a viewing platform to see such scenes as this. I think this was on firework night a couple of years ago, which was a great place to view fireworks from a boat. We also do educational and conferences and anything that basically people require. The boats are just an open blank canvas, and we can tailor them to what you want. Perhaps you might like a drink as you're boarding the vessel, and take the views in. Here we are, Christmas comes and we operate through Christmas. And as I say, we can offer all sorts of different types of food. We're also able to have private parties for weddings, and it's the perfect venue really for any sort of get together. You can have the dancing, or you can have a quiet drink on the lower deck in the bar. Again, it's the views, it's the tranquility, and the river is just so relaxing. And there's the boat turning just at Whitchurch. Of course, we do have some quite raucous parties, which are always good fun, and we can offer all sorts of different types of entertainment. We can put jazz bands on board, and here we've got the Lady Mayor opening when Reading Abbey was opened about a year ago. We do go to Henley Regatta, and all the other towns on the river actually have regattas, and it's really quite fun if you can time a tour to go in with the racing that occurs up and down the river. The winter, well, we do actually operate in the winter, but not quite under these conditions. And here we are going into one of the locks. You can see it's quite a tight fit, and so you have to sort of think slim when you're going on the locks. Anyway, our excursions basically for the group travel crowds are based on 40 people, but recently we've introduced a rate for 30 and 20. And we've also introduced some midweek schedule cruises, which can take the smaller groups or individuals. So on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or a Thursday, we offer selected cruises, which we would very much like you to be able to take advantage of. Also at the weekends, we have our shorter river cruises, which operate from Caversham Bridge, and they also run during the summer holidays. And that's Thames River Cruise. Please come to our website. It's thamesrivercruise.co.uk. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you very much, Tim. Okay, and last but certainly not least, I'd like to introduce Alison Hilton from the Museum of English Rural Life.
Hello, and thank you for sticking with us and still being here. Yeah, hopefully last but not least. So yeah, I'm Alison. I'm from the Museum of English Rural Life. So the museum is located not far from the centre of Reading, not a short walk from Reading Museum, from the Abbey ruins, and from the river that you've already heard about. We're located in this beautiful Victorian building. It's another one of Alfred Waterhouse's masterpieces, and has its own links with the history of the town, being the former family home of the Palmer family, Huntley and Palmer, biscuit fame. So you might be wondering, what is the Museum of English Rural Life doing in the middle of Reading, in quite an urban setting? And it's all about the university. So at a time of major change in the farming and rural life after the war, academics at the university's agriculture department started touring agricultural shows and talking to farmers, persuading them to donate machinery and tools that were going out of use so that they could be looked after and kept for future generations. And that was the start of the museum that we have today. The museum was established by them in 1951, which makes us a mere baby in relation to the venerable abbey. But we are celebrating our own anniversary this year. It's our 70th anniversary, which we share along with Archers from BBC and with the Festival of Britain. And sadly, like everyone else, we can't celebrate on site at the moment, but we are running a year-long collaborative project when we'll be inviting all kinds of people to join us in responding to a selection of objects, all that have a relationship with 1951. And that's going to be a creative project that will start online, inevitably. We've launched that recently, all online for the moment, but we hope that by the end of the year, we'll be able to introduce new things to see into the galleries, so that there will be all sorts to see. So what will you see when you come for a visit to the Museum of English Rural Life? You'll arrive in a bright and airy introduction area, where you'll find our cafe and shop, and from there you'll be able to go into the garden, or you'll be able to go straight into our galleries. We went through a major Heritage Lottery funded redevelopment and reopened again in 2016, and we now have 9 new galleries, modern, spacious and bright galleries, which all have their own distinct theme. We're using our historical collections to address contemporary issues, such as where your food comes from, GM farming, and things that make the collections relevant to the visitors today. So you would start in the first gallery, which is Shaping the Land, and this sets the scene for the rest of the museum. Just focusing on the fact that the countryside today is shaped by our input into the landscape. This is the next gallery, The Year on the Farm, and one of the glories of the museum's collection is that our object collection, which is vast already, is complemented by an incredible archive, library and photographic collection, which we can use throughout the museum to put the objects into context. As you can see, the paintings on the wall there and the photographs as well, just to help a deeper understanding of what you're able to look at. All of the galleries are packed with an incredible variety of our treasures, from tiny little lace bobbins to a huge threshing machine, from a national collection of farm wagons to a Land Rover that was just in the previous slide, from horseshoes to wellies that were owned by Michael Eavis from Glastonbury, with the mud still intact. And all of these illustrate the life and work in the countryside over the last 150 years. Throughout the galleries, you'll find a focus on people, the stories of key characters who influence change and life in the countryside, all bringing the displays to life. You'll find new digital interactives which help you explore more deeply, either through games or by being able to look at more photographs or archival material. Upstairs, you'll, alongside our amazing collection of ploughs, obviously, you will be able to lose yourselves in the, it's a really popular feature of the museum, which is our open stores, where you'll see collections ranging from smocks, textiles, toys, tools, drainage tiles. They're interesting too, I promise. And perhaps unexpectedly, at the end of your visit, you'll find the Ladybird Gallery. The university houses incredible special collections, and this is part of our printing and publishing collection. You can see a lovely nostalgic wall of books which where you can identify your own childhood favourites. Towards the end of your visit, you come back into the welcome space, back to enjoy some refreshments in the cafe, and to have a browse of the shop, which obviously no visit to a museum is complete without that. And from there, you'll find our really fairly unexpected urban garden, peaceful place at the back of the building, where there's more cafe seating, picnic area, lovely lawn for picnics. We have a small woodland area, a play tractor for children, shepherd's hut that you can see there, herb gardens and allotments. They're looking a little bit overgrown in this picture because this was during lockdown when we weren't able to get in and do the gardening, but we do grow things there along with community. And we even have chickens in the garden. So what would you expect to when you come for a group visit to the museum? We have a range of packages. It starts from £5 per person. For a standard package, and our Blackbird package includes some refreshments and a meeting space. And you can also add some optional extras to those, including a talk by a host or your lunch. All our groups are met by a welcome host. They're incredibly knowledgeable, usually volunteers who have been with us for years and really enjoy talking about the museum. They'll meet you when you arrive and give you a short 15-minute introduction to the museum, the history, and talk to you about the themes that you'll see in the galleries. And then they'll accompany you through your visit. So they'll be there to answer your questions, tell you about their favourite objects, but you can explore then at your own pace. And as people have already mentioned, we do have some limited parking, and we can accommodate minibus and a number of cars, but there's space for a drop-off by coach, which can then be parked on the university campus by arrangement. As Matt says, the museums are closed at the moment. Sadly, we can't welcome groups yet, but we are here and we are keen to hear from you if you're interested in thinking about a visit later in the year. We're ready to go. We opened from September through to December with new safety measures in place, including a one-way system around the galleries and a booking system to make sure that we never got too busy. We hope that we'll be able to open and welcome you to the museum very soon. Because we know that you can't visit at the moment, excuse me, we're launching some new virtual group visits. So we know that Zoom birthdays have been a thing this year, and I guess the museum is no different. So we're inviting you to come online and celebrate with us. The theme of the talk would be the 51 Voices project, exploring the galleries through a selection of objects that relate to 1951 and sort of having a fresh look at the collections in relation to life today. And that would be, again, hosted by a welcome host, a blend of some live and pre-recorded material in a Zoom meeting. And we'd love to hear from you if you were interested in doing one of those in the meantime before you can actually come and visit us in person. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you for sticking with us all today. Do have a look on our website for more information or contact us at this address. And in the meantime, join us on social media where you can find out about what's going on while we're closed and see a little bit more about the collections. So thank you very much.
Thank you to Tim and Matthew and Alison. And so I hope that's given you a bit of an introduction to Reading in 2021. And I'll pass back to Elaine and Karen for any questions.
Thank you very much, everybody. That was some fascinating presentations there. And I can well recommend the Museum of English Rural Life, as well as all the other places in the city, in the town. And what I did find fascinating at Merle was the Ladybird book collection. As a child, I used to read the Ladybird books, and they've got quite a collection there. We do have a question that has been answered, but I think it's worth just exploring it a bit further. And that is one for Matthew about the Victorian classroom, which is part of the Reading Museum. I think that's the one at the West Gate, isn't it?
In the Abbey Gate, yes, which you've seen in the presentations, yeah. Yeah, so that is now home to our Victorian schoolroom, which is mainly used by schools. They, unfortunately, again, not at the moment. We're actually doing it virtually to schools at the moment, but it's actually, we've been running this for about 20 years, and it's a full recreation of Victorian schoolroom. And kids love it. They actually love the fact that they might get the cane and be made to stand with a dunce's cap, which is just bizarre, really. I don't think they quite understand what the reality until they've actually done it of how awful it would have been to be a Victorian school child. But it's in the same room where Jane Austen went to school with her sister Cassandra. And in school holidays and half terms, we actually open that up for anyone to book and go on in usual circumstances. And again, we can sometimes accommodate group tours for that as well. So if you look on our group tour pages or do an inquiry form to us, once we're reopened, then we can accommodate that, or look at our drop in and book a visit if you want to come just as a normal household group.
Great, thank you very much. And David Gent, who raised that, has also mentioned about how worthwhile visiting the museum for the Bayeux tapestry is. I think that's all the questions that we've had. So if nobody else has a question, I'll hand over to Elaine.
Thank you very much, everybody. That was a fantastic end to the final presentations. Really grateful for you all, and thank you to all of the Visit Reading team, the Reading UK team. Appreciate the time it takes to put these presentations together, so very grateful for that. Just on an aside of that, as I have said, and I apologise to those of you who I am repeating this to, all of these all these businesses are on the website, and their information will remain there. Because the site and the videos and the recordings have all been so popular, we aren't going to take them down, so they are there for your use, your reference as you go through the year. I just wanted to pick up on, for example, if you go to Thames River Cruise, you will be able to go on there, see everybody's information. I picked up the right one. And if you've got the downloads, so that's the group travel information, and then you can download the brochures or make inquiries or request information. When you use these forms, you don't need to fill it in lots of times. You only need to fill it in once, and then you can select for us to get information sent to you from the individual exhibitors. So we will pass that on to them next week. We also have the recordings, which will be downloaded and uploaded and then added to the e-newsletter program. There is a Solus e-newsletter going out, including information about all of the partners on today's talk, and a link to the video if you want to re-watch it, or forward that on to your members to have a look as well. And we also and you can view the videos from any parts of the website. There's various buttons all over the website. That as well will be remaining there. And as we say, as this has been such a good program and you've all been great with your feedback to let us know, we are going to continue this. Not as regularly. I don't think I can handle doing 10 a week indefinitely, but we will be putting on these sessions. We will send emails out inviting you to join us. I know we will have one lined up for the Isle of Wight in due course, and Winchester. So look out for more information about those. But I think that leaves me to say that it's a wrap. and we have finished our show week virtual program. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been really good fun. It's been a learning curve for us all, and we cannot wait to see you face to face in due course, and we very much hope that will be in 2022. So it's the 22nd of January 2022 at Twickenham Stadium. We will be sending out a video tomorrow, so keep your eyes on your emails and social media, just giving you a little taster of what is to come. And we will see you all then. Hopefully we'll see you before when we do some of these, more of these virtual sessions, but we will definitely see you then. If anybody does want to stay on, just to give us any other final sound bites of the things that they've maybe picked up here that they didn't know about, or places that they think they'd really like to explore as and when they can, then please do stay on in just a moment. It'll just help us with, you know, some more video. Video is king these days, so it just helps us spread the word and ensure that we can continue to support you as group travel organisers. We wish you the best of luck as and when your groups can get going, and we really do hope that that happens sooner rather than later. And let us know what adventures you go on too, as and when you start booking these things. You can always email us at excursions@tourismse.com via the website, and just let us know. It'd be lovely to know that these sessions have been useful and it's been prosperous for everybody. So very much take care. Could everybody, I'm going to do one last, sorry, get my phone to open. I'd really love if you could all wave at the camera for me as we say goodbye to everybody for the final time for now. Thank you very much.
Bye everybody, lovely to see you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye, everyone. Thanks, Dave. Bye.
Sad.
It is quite sad. Anybody staying on?